Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Church of Caboose, and welcome to my corner of the internet. In this video, Trials is back, and oh boy, it's already crap. And that's going to be the topic of this video. It's going to be kind of geared towards showing you guys like the problems and flaws and ways I think we can try to go about fixing these issues. And this is also going to be a video kind of geared a little bit at least towards the casual, like typical Destiny player that like doesn't use modded controllers or mouse and keyboard on things like console or PC hacks or whatever. This is like going to be for like if you maybe are someone that's like, I don't know, maybe I'll do Trials. Is it any better? I would argue no, but this video is going to hopefully at least help you out as far as knowing what some of the issues are, and maybe you can decide for yourself if it's worth trying to play inside of this playlist. So if you enjoy the video or even just agree with me in this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to my channel, as well as like the video, share the video, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and experiences down below. I already know there's going to probably be someone that's going to be like, just get good, and I already know I suck at PvP. This is not me trying to whine and be like, oh, I can't get flawless. No, like this is like, hey, I played, sure, I know I'm bad, but it was miserable, and it's for things that should at least be somewhat avoidable, and we're going to be talking about those. So that's going to be the whole video, I guess, is the gist of it. So let's go ahead and start on off with the problems I already see happening inside Trials of Osiris. So probably the biggest problem within Trials of Osiris right now is the population. There's not that many people playing. So one of the ways you know if something is being generally well accepted, especially within games like Destiny, is how many people are playing. And you might say, well, it's just Friday, but hear me out. So we already can tell it's a really small player base because of the insane number of sweat teams and teams where most likely they are being paid to play for an individual, because we can look up stats beforehand and you can tell like when a team is playing insanely better than their lifetime stats show and their trials history shows, like most likely they hopped on that train and paid someone to play, which, you know, I guess ultimately do whatever with your money. But when you have like a good player base, while that's frustrating to run into those groups, it is not devastating to the game mode. And right now it's a huge problem for the game mode, and and we can tell, right, because when we're loading in, you might even see this in some of the gameplay, we are loading against teams with combined totals of like 100 to 120 flawless clears. I think one team we played against had as much as 175, if I remember correctly, but I played so many games, I could be off if you look at my history and whatever. So, but like the point is, we're playing against groups that are way up there, like on like percentage, like probably top like 3% of the whole community, and it's game after game after game after game, like on the 1 win, 0 wins, 2 wins. It was a struggle just to, I think I got to 3 wins once. And again, I'm not trying to like be like, oh, woe is me, like I'm whining because I know I suck, right? But like we mentioned earlier in the video, or I think I mentioned that do a lot of takes. We should be seeing a game mode where about 50 to 75% of the player base gets 3 to 5 wins. That should be pretty much, not like a guaranteed you hop in, but it should be pretty common. Like if you want to sit down for a game session in a couple of hours, you should be able to get at least 3, if not 5 wins for about 50 to 75% of the player base most of the time. And then you should have about 25% getting to 7 wins and about 10% or so getting flawless. And instead, we have this huge, bizarre split. One indication and factor of this is if you scroll through LFG, at least on Xbox, I was either seeing, hey, we hate trials, we're just doing this for the bounty, or like must have 2.0 KD. Like inside of trials. So that's kind of where the population is at right now. There's not a whole lot in the middle, and there's just not that many people that are playing, and there's a good chunk of folks that are paying to play. Another big problem is the lack of incentives, which is heavily playing into this lack of player base. So there's more incentives to play, you're going to have more players, which leads to a better overall experience. And currently, with even like the good chunk of folks I played with today, they're mostly like, I I really I'm only doing this for the bounty, and once it's done, like whatever. I hate trials. I'm probably not going to play it again, but whatever. And that's really right now the only incentive. And we'll get into more of like my theory, and like we're talking to my wife and some other folks about like ways we could try to fix this. But incentives is a huge issue. Then we have the problem of card-based matchmaking. So card-based matchmaking, if you're not familiar, is in theory, if you're on 0 wins, you would play against someone else who doesn't have any wins yet, and they try to pair things up. So the idea would be is the farther into the cards you get, the more sweaty the games are. So if you're on the 6th win and you're going for flawless, odds are you're playing against someone else who's on the 6th win and they're going for flawless. So like the point is everyone gets weeded out. So when you're on 0 wins, the whole player base, basically everyone could play anybody. So you will run into those crazy sweaty teams, which is how I know this population is way whacked. But what's happening is with the issue of card-based matchmaking prioritized over connection-based, is folks are getting really laggy matches. Like I had a game, and I'm kicking myself for not having recorded this, where I hit this dude with like 3 Fellwinters point blank, and like boom, like nothing happened. Boom, nothing happened. I'm trying to get revives. I get the revive. Then when it spawned in, like all these different kills were like should have been happening, just weren't happening. And this dude was able to train wreck us purely because he was literally unkillable. By the time he would register as a death for us, he would have already wiped out the team, and we're all like unloading fusion rifles and shotguns and everything we had into this guy. And this happens more often than one would think. Sometimes it's even just enough latency where you might get shot through a wall. Like these things make huge impacts on the player base, as well as the value and enjoyment of a game mode. Someone like me, because again, this is catered towards the typical Destiny player, because I suck at PvP. This whole game is mode. We already know it's like, all right, it's not going to probably be super fun. We're just going to do our best and try to enjoy it. And then when you get thrown at you with well, they're unkillable because of their internet, and it's card based over connection based, it makes it just downright absolutely miserable. Like the trials right now, I'm like, you know what? I don't even think. Right now, I have zero desire to ever play trials again, unless they do a huge revamp to the reward system. And then when you throw in that internet thing, it's like, good God. Like, I was so excited when I was like, you know what? I think I got enough footage. I clearly suck. This isn't going to go any better or any worse. It is what it is. And I started making this video. So that's kind of really the problems that we're seeing, the main ones for me inside of Trials of Osiris with Destiny 2 Beyond Light. So here's some ways we have to try and fix these issues to give a better experience really for everybody. So we're going to want to add reward levels. This is kind of my idea to make more incentives, because if you have reward levels, then there's an increase in casual player incentives. So here's one of my ideas, for example. So we already have, for the 3 wins, we have a bounty, right? Bounty takes, if you can't get a win, bounty takes quite a bit longer to do than it would be to just get 3 wins. So we could do something like have a bounty system for 3, 5, and 7 wins. And obviously, the ones like for 5 and 7 are going to be very much longer than it would be for the 3rd win, because those are supposed to be more upper tier. I do not think there's any point to having some kind of like a casual bounty incentive for a flawless clear, because at least not yet, because we're trying to boost the player base. And so a way to get the player base up is to make things more accessible to more people. Now, these different reward bounties could be things like maybe it's just play games. And the more you win, then the more progress you make. Kind of like the 3rd bounty, only for 5 would maybe take like 5 hours of playing Trials of Osiris. And then 7 wins would be like you spent 10 hours this weekend playing Trials. Like something rather significant, so that way it's more worth getting the wins, but it might be enough incentive for the casual, more typical Destiny player to want to hop inside Trials, which would then boost the population, which would probably ultimately make those bounties not even very much needed. But hey, like whatever we gotta do something. Another deal we could do is to add card-based and skill-based matchmaking. So We also need to have this with connection base. So I think we want to have like connection of like a 40% priority or like 60%. And then 40% would be something like skill based. So if we want to have right now, we see the population for most of Trials is incredibly sweaty. So if we were to have skill based matchmaking for Trials of Osiris, I'm not sure it would actually change the experience of that streamer or the hardcore player that much than it is right now. Right now, they have to fight tooth and nail for almost every single win. Now, there's going to be outliers where they're like, everyone's easy until I get to like 7 wins, or everyone's just easy all the time. There's going to be outliers. But in general, they're all fighting tooth and nail anyways for every single win. So if we have skill-based matchmaking, then everyone is still fighting tooth and nail for every win. And occasionally you'll have an easy one, occasionally you'll have a really hard one, but I think that's currently a better system for Trials than what we have right now. Because if we have these incentives, we have a bigger player base. And if we do something, or even you could probably just do one or the other. Even if you had skill-based matchmaking, I am sure as hell more people would be like, all right, let me give it a shot, because they know they're playing people most likely around their skill level, which is way more encouraging to play against than it is, well, Trials is full of steamrollers, so what's the point of even trying? Then another idea of how we could try to fix some things were to try to make sure we really look at numbers, and we want to have 3 wins where we see about 75% of those who played that Trials of Osiris, about 75% are getting 3 wins. You want to really look at numbers and see about 50% are getting 5 wins. You want to really look at numbers and see about 25% are getting 7 wins, and really look at numbers and make sure about 10% are getting flawless. This would ideally be pretty much the perfect scenario for Trials of Osiris. So that would mean you have a good player base. That would mean matches are connecting how they should, and it'd be a good overall way of being able to tell what is happening. And if you don't see those numbers, like they try to do with raids and PvE, then you want, as Bungie would want to look at and say, okay, what can we try to do to make this more useful? Could it be adding in more bounties for the different win levels? Would it be doing skill-based matchmaking? I don't know, but that'd be kind of the way of numbers-wise, in my opinion, of looking at is Trials of Osiris being successful within the Destiny community. Because right now, all it is everyone telling each other to get good. Either join my fire team because you're God's gift to Destiny, or join my fire team because we hate our lives and we like being miserable, so let's be miserable together. Like, that seems to be the extremes we have going on right now, and the majority are on that more of must have a certain KD to even join my fire team. Alright, so for reward levels, we're going to kind of expand upon ways you could try to make rewards more useful. So this was proposed by a clan member, and I think it's a pretty good system. So 1 to 3 wins would be like a bronze tier, 4 to 5 wins would be a silver tier, and 6 to 7 wins would be a gold tier. Inside of that bronze tier, so 1 to 3 wins, you would see about 75% of the players. That silver tier would be about 45% of the players, and that gold tier, which is 6-7 wins, would be about 20% of the player base. In that 1 to 3 wins in the bronze level, you would see rewards of like 55 plus stat rolled armor. We would have things like 1 gold tier perk that would drop on weapons. You would get 3 cores and a prism, because one way to get more people into the game is to have upgrade materials, because more people play PvE, and so if they're able to get materials at a faster rate doing something like Trials, or a more guaranteed rate doing something like Trials, then they're going to probably drift over to do Trials, if for nothing else than the material rewards. At 4 to 5 wins, which is that silver tier with about 45% of the players, they would get rewarded 60 plus rolled stat armor with about 5 to 10 cores, 2 gold tier perks. So these would be things that are like top of the game for that weapon, with those perks on those weapons, and then 2 or 3 of those enhancement prisms. For the gold tier of 6-7 wins, with about 20% of the players, you would have guaranteed 65 stat rolled armor, 1 ascendant shard, 3 gold tier perks, like you would be a high chance of getting a god roll piece of weaponry, and then you would get 3 to 5 enhancement prisms. I really think this system would be enough to broaden the player base. It's super incentivizing. I believe we had Ascendant Nomad laid out something that was similar to this, but I think it was more for like Valor and Glory as opposed to just Trials. And I really think this would be amazing for the playlist. If nothing else, it would bolster it for a while, get more people into trying it, and then you could see what happens to the economy for upgrades and whatnot. And I really don't think this would be a huge deal because you'd have players from PvE deciding is it worth that 6-7, and then you'd have folks that would probably end up deciding it's not worth doing the low card farms. It used to be a problem with Trials where people would just farm wins 1 through 3 just so that way they could get more tokens. It was easy and it allowed them to farm for one piece of gear. But if you have like these rewards set up in the like fashion I just mentioned, there's lots and lots of rewards and incentive to go all the way up to 7 wins without even being flawless. Flawless would be the best case scenario. So for flawless rewards, about 10% of the player, we would have guaranteed 65 plus stat based armor that is also masterwork. So it would drop at probably like 75 total. So 65 base plus the 12 for the masterwork. So I guess 77 would be the drop for that armor. Then you of course still have the Adept weapons, and you would be pretty much guaranteed God roll exclusive perks. And then you get 2 Ascendant shards and 5 enhancement prisms. Like, that is super incentivizing, and I think we get more people in to try their hand at seeing if they could pull off a flawless. Alright guys, so that's really the video. Right now, I do not feel like Trials is worth playing for the typical Destiny player. If you're trying to do it for rewards, you could easily just crank out a Prophecy or a Pit of Heresy or just farm Nightfalls and get more benefit and less headache than you would do doing Trials with Osiris. I'm super frustrated with this. Bungie has been ragged on for a while. Trials is still half-baked. It's honestly, it's garbage. I have really strong... I used to enjoy things like this, but comp is way more enjoyable now than Trials is, and it's way more rewarding. So we need to get Trials fixed, and it needs to get done in a hurry. I personally would not give a shit if Trials went away forever. If it was to either be not have Trials at all, or have it stay how it is, I'd be like, don't have Trials at all. Because especially with my head, I just feel like, oh, it's the weekend, that means I have to play Trials, and it's like grained into my head, and it bugs me. I just don't like there being Trials. But not when this is currently the state of Trials of Osiris. Alright, y'all, comment down below, what do you guys think of my idea, my suggestions, my plan, and do you concur? Like, is your experience right? No, this is easy. Try to be respectful. Like, I'm not trying to say I deserve anything. I'm not even trying to say I think I'm good. I know I suck. I'm just played, noticed these huge issues, talked to folks, they had similar feelings, and Bungie seems to really only listen to folks like on social media. So here we go. If you want Bungie to have a better shot at actually caring, share this video, subscribe to my channel, like the video, comment down below, do whatever you can to interact, so that way it's more likely to get seen by Bungie, because the more views and stuff, the more Bungie might be like, oh damn, this matters. So there we go. I am Church of Caboose. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.